Hello everyone, this is Michael from Kendo World. Thanks for joining us again for another KED Talk. Today we're joined by Stuart Gibson from the UK. Stuart's a Renshi Rokudan and was a member of the British team from 2001 to 2014. Took part in 5 World Kendo Championships and got a Fighting Spirit Award 3 times. And also took part in 10 European Kendo Championships and won the individual title in 2014. He's now resident in Tokyo, where he's training and working. So let's welcome Stuart. Stuart, welcome to KED Talk.
Evening.
Yes, I'll just point out we're recording this at 10 p.m. on a Friday evening. So cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
If there wasn't a lockdown or anything, I'm sure rather than here, we would be in a bar somewhere. So let's crack on. So Stuart, I guess let's just start at the beginning. How did you get into Kendo?
Oh, I thought when you said right at the beginning, you were going to ask me about my childhood for a minute. That would have been traumatic. How did I get into Kendo? It's very easy. I was living in Oxford at the time. It was the year 1999, and
made famous by Prince in a song, I believe, wasn't it?
I wouldn't know. I don't listen to people who wear crushed velvet. You totally made me lose my train of thought. A couple of friends of mine had gone to the local university kendo club, and they'd asked if members of the public were able to go. And they said, yeah, anyone's welcome. And so we went as a group of 5 the following week. 1 year later, only me and the first guy who went, who said, do you want to come to Kendo? We're still doing it. 2 years later, it was just me.
So that was 1999.
1999, October of 1999. So I don't know why I remember that, but I do.
That was Oxford University? Kendo
it was Oxford? Yeah. It would be great to say that I was smart, but I wasn't. I was like just some random pleb working in the shop, and a couple of my mates were at the university, and they were like, let's go, let's do this.
So after how long from starting then did you realize that this was something, I'm into this, I'm gonna keep going?
That's a good question. I don't think it was like some realization. I think like over a period of time, I kind of figured out that I don't want to say that Kendo came easily to me, but the basics as a beginner felt natural, right? Like I could look at other people and imitate what they were doing, relatively easily to kind of like get started with it. And I was enjoying it. Like it was a form of exercise that I didn't hate, because like people look at me all the time. They see that I do Kendo and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, you must be like really super fit and all of this." I'm like, I hate running, I hate exercise. I don't want to do anything strenuous apart from Kendo. And if it's not Kendo, I'm not interested. And that always like messes with people because they think, "Oh, you mean Kendo? It looks hard. It looks physically hard. You must be like super fit." I'm like, I've got a beer belly and I couldn't run 100 meters if you paid me, but I could do Kendo for 3 hours, no problem.
That's probably most people that do Kendo, to be honest.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that you think are not great physical specimens, but once they're in all their gear and in the dojo, they turn into something else.
I'm a specimen, but I don't know what that means.
All right, so that was your introduction then to it was Oxford. But you lived in London after that? Did you move?
So I lived in Oxford until I was 19. So I did Kendo in Oxford for about 18 months to 2 years. I can't exactly remember. Moved to Reading after that for work. Not the best place to live, I've got to say. It's like Reading was a place where I lived where it was between everything that I wanted to do, which was Kendo in London and Kendo in Oxford. Like nothing against the town of Reading itself, it just wasn't that interesting to me at the time. And so I lived in Reading for work for about a year or so, and would do kendo in Oxford on Mondays and Wednesdays. One of my old teachers, Peter Wells, used to like give me a lift here and there. And then on Fridays and I think it was Saturdays or Sundays, I would get the train into London to do kendo in London. So like within a couple of years, I was already like practicing 4 or 5 times a week if I could.
Whereabouts in London were you training?
So I started off training at Imperial College with the students there. So like another university club. I mean, I was almost the same age as these guys anyway. In fact, I think I was the same age, like 20, 21 when I was doing this. And then after a period of time, I heard that one of the younger Mumeshi members who had gotten into UCL College was going to start a kendo club there, and I offered to help out. I think in my arrogance at the time, I was like, I'm third dan, I can teach. And so it was just like, yeah, let's try and do this, basically. And so opened with him the Najaf, his name was, opened with him the second iteration of UCL Kendo Club.
Is that the one now that's Joe? Is it Joe?
Joe Choi, yeah. He was in the very first class of people that joined the club. So he has been at UCL Kendo Club right from the very beginning.
He works there in the office, doesn't he, or is it part of the university?
I have no idea what he does. Oh, okay. I know that he's still making sure that my old kendo club is alive and kicking. So Joe, if you ever see this, bless you for keeping the old ways running.
Yeah, I went there once when I went back to London for because obviously I'm based in Japan. I went back there for research and got to train at UCL.
You never told me that.
Yeah, that would have been in winter, either 2008 or 2009. Just one time.
What? You never told me that, man.
Really?
Keeping secrets from me these days.
I do apologise. No secrets. No secrets.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
All right. So you started around in 1999, and then
99, yeah.
Yeah, and then so you became a member of the GB team in 2001. Is that right?
I was first selected in 2001. Yeah.
So was that, you mean just to go to training or to be actually?
No, to go to training. It was, so in the UK, there is a beginners competition in London called the Lidstone Taikai.
Oh, I think maybe just quickly explain what the Lidstone Taikai is.
Yeah,
it's a pretty famous competition.
It's in the UK, yeah, it's got a bit of history to it. So like if somebody else on the internet sees this and decides to flame me in the comments or whatever, just fine, do what you like. I'm probably wrong on some details here, but I think Frank Lidstone, Sir Frank Lidstone, maybe, who was one of the earliest like kendo pioneers in the UK, I guess. And was very attached to teaching beginners. He was a part of the UK kendo scene like early on, and obviously he's not with us anymore. And in his memory, to kind of pay homage to the fact that he put a lot of effort into beginners and loved practicing with beginners, they created a beginners only competition. So you could basically for anybody up to IQ, and they held it in Nuniki in Elephant and Castle in London.
She just actually said it's Charles Lidstone, not Frank Lidstone.
So there we go. Who's Frank Lidstone? I don't know, man. Come on, like it's been 20 years since I entered the Lidstone Taikai. Man. It's the Lidstone Taikai to me, right? It's the thing. It's the thing that all beginners get their wings, so to speak. Is it Charles Lidstone?
Charles R.A. Lidstone. I believe.
Where did I get Frank from? Who's Frank Lidstone?
Frank Bowden, I believe.
Oh, but I nearly swore there. Okay, I'm mixing up my kendo dignitaries. That's what it is. That's what happens when you have a 9% strength lemon sour before you come into these things.
So that was so from that Taikai then that you got sick by someone from the squad?
Yes. So at the time, Jeff Hum, who is, I believe, still running Hizen in central London, was asked to coach the national team after the Santa Clara World Championships. And he was not just looking for the strongest 5 people, but he, like, all credit to him, he was looking for like people who were young and showed some kind of potential. And I guess Jeff saw something in me. Arrogance. I don't know.
Quite me, I think.
Yeah, something. Thanks, Jeff, by the way. And asked me if I would be interested in training with the team. And I was like, yeah, this sounds fun. Like, I'll definitely give that a go. And so there was a few experienced people, and then there was a whole bunch of people who had never done anything like represent a national team at anything before. And it was like, I look back on it now and I just think what a strange group of people it must have been, because it was like people like me who'd been doing kendo for like 12 months at the time. And then there was like people who like Alex Sala, who were already 5th Dan at that point. And I'm like, what's 5th Dan? Like, I barely know what that really means at this point in time. And so we were just going in there. I was getting my ass kicked around a lot, but it was good. It was good impetus for me to, I guess, apply myself to kendo. So I started to take it. I wouldn't, again, at that point, I wouldn't necessarily say take it seriously, but I started to practice more because I was starting to see a different side of kendo at that point.
So that was from 2001 then you kind of started to go along to the training. When did you make your debut in the team then in a competition? And what competition was that? Yeah,
so I don't know if at the time it was the 4 nations or the 5 nations Taikai. There was, I think it's the member countries have evolved over time. The last time I was in it, it was the UK, Switzerland, Sweden, Finland, Germany, and I want to say one more country, but I can't remember. So let's call it the 5 nations. And that was my first international competition. I just got my ass kicked all over the place. Yeah, I give it a good old college try, but like I was completely out of my depth at the end of the day. Like I've been doing kendo for 18 months. And the thing that it did was open my eyes. Like at that point, you've then got a group of people in front of you who are all really good at what they do. And it gives you a target, right? And I think it's at that point, it's kind of like up to you what you do with that. And I just chose to run with it. Basically, I said, well, okay, like I got picked to do this thing. It was purely a pick to give me some experience and give me some exposure, which I appreciate now. And just give it a go. And I enjoyed it. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I want a piece of this. And so I started to take it a bit more seriously after that.
So was that tournament, was it held in like out of those 5 or 6 countries, was it held on a rotating basis?
It rotated around all the time. Yeah.
Okay. I've not actually heard of that competition before.
I think it still happens. Yeah. I think it still happens. It's a good competition, man. It's a good competition. Like you have I think you had the team competition on like the Saturday, the individuals on a Sunday, and a lot of alcohol all around it.
That's quite surprising to me. Actually.
Who would have thought for a kendo competition there was alcohol involved in the evenings? But it was good because it gave you a chance, like outside the rigmarole and all the kind of chest puffing of the European Championships, to get to at least see and interact with your counterparts on different teams. So like through that, I got to know members of like those various teams and drink with them and like find people who are in the same sort of situation and position as me and people I could relate to.
So when was your first, which came first for you, an EKC or a World Champs?
The EKC. So like, I think we know this these days. The EKC and the World Championships are on like rotations. So you have two, for us in Europe, you have 2 European Championships and then the Worlds. Yeah. And so after Santa Clara, which I had absolutely nothing to do with, the European Championships then came in 2001 in Bologna in Italy. And that was the first one that I was selected for. It's kind of this ridiculous situation. Like, again, like somebody who's been doing kendo for just over a year and a half, getting selected for the national team to go to the European Championships and put into the individuals as well.
So you were in team and individuals? No,
I was just in the individuals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they didn't select me for the team, but they obviously they put the best team in for that. And I was just kind of like there watching.
I suppose that's kind of like other sports. I know at the moment we've got the European Football Championships going on. And when they were really young, they found on the BBC, I think it was, they found footage of Frank Lampard and Rio Ferdinand as really young, like 17, 18. They were just in and around the squad. They weren't a member of the team, or they never got on the pitch. They weren't even in the squad, but they were just there to observe and soak it in.
To see how it goes. Yeah. And that, like for me, that first European Championships just shaped everything that I wanted to do with my kendo for the next 15 years after that, basically.
So how did you do in that first one then in the individuals?
Rubbish, mate. Like no, not that bad. I got out of my pool.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got out of my pool. Again with 18 months of experience under my belt, just got out of there by like pure brass testicles, basically, I think, and then got like just knocked about immediately afterwards by like some fifth dan from Norway, I think, and it's like, okay, one and done then, I guess. But after that, like, I guess nobody in the team was expecting me to beat anyone. It's just like, give him some experience, see how he does. And so like I beat a couple of people, and obviously go to the European Championships, don't make a tit out of myself in the groups, and I get out of my group and then put up some kind of showing against somebody with some experience. And I'm like, okay, I still enjoyed the whole experience. It was good. I wanted to do more, and it was a good motivator for me. I applied myself more, and I think that kind of showed through again to the coach and the manager, and they decided to, I guess, invest a little bit more time in me.
So from that experience then, from the EKC, was there anyone in particular, like in the British team or anyone else that you saw like in that championships that you kind of thought you could model yourself on or learnt a lot from?
Model myself on.
Well, maybe model yourself, but someone that you thought was like, oh, okay,
yeah,
what he's doing, maybe I should do that.
Yeah. So in the team at the time, Anthony Scott produced the best results, I thought. And I remember watching in the final Mats Wahlqvist from Sweden, who is as tall as me. and Erdeli Gabor from Hungary, who is also as tall as me. So like a couple of tall guys doing this monstrous final out there, and I'm thinking, well, these guys are like, they're shaped like me. I can go and do something like that. I didn't realize at the time I was looking at somebody who had trained with the Tokyo Riot Police and somebody who had been to Kokusai Budo Daigaku. But like to me, it's like, oh, look, two guys that are shaped like me. Let's go and give this a try. And it was good motivation for me.
So that was then 2001. So then there would have been another EKC in 2002. Did you get a place in the team for that champ?
I did, yes. I think I was. I was used in one or two matches in the early stages. I think they might have even used me outside of the group against Germany, and I just got trounced. Yeah, I mean, again, I was still only 2.5 years into doing kendo at that point as well. So like I was first or second dan maybe by that point, and just going in, chuck myself around, get beat up by a few more experienced folks, win against a couple of like lesser teams. It was okay. Again, it was a good experience. Individuals got out of my group again, like lost again in the first or second round. It was what it was at the end of the day. But for me, it was another one of those kind of step forwards, basically. Like I'd gone from the youngster who gets his first shot by a little bit of individuals action to let's stick him in the team and see what he can do, kind of thing.
So you kind of felt by that time, you think you'd kind of cemented your place in the team, or you still thought you'd still got a lot to do? So the thing was, at that point, by 2002, I knew that this was what I wanted to do. Like, and so then it was a case of applying myself to it. And so that was when I started to practice a little bit harder and a little bit more, when I started to make life choices that would take me closer to more practice in London, basically. So after 2001, I started to practice in London with Imperial College. 2002, I was looking at ways to move into London so that I could just do more kendo. And even before the 2002 World Championships, I was living in London and doing kendo 5-6 times a week. So 2003 World Champs, running Glasgow.
The 2003 World Championships, yeah. So before then, I'd already moved into London and practicing as much as I could, basically.
So what clubs were you going? I assume UCL and
pretty much everything I could go to at that point. Yeah. So UCL, when we'd started it up, occasionally I would go to Hizen, Wakaba I would go to on Saturdays, Muneshi I would go to on Sundays. At the time, there was a Japanese guy called Yanai Sensei, and he started like an informal practice for people in London City. So I started practicing with him as well. Imperial College for a time I was still involved with, but once UCL picked up, I kind of moved over to concentrate more on them. It was, it was basically as much practice I could get my hands on. I did 5-6 times a week.
Nice. So then the following year then would have been your first World Champs, Glasgow,
in Glasgow,
2003.
Sadly, I didn't get an audience with the Queen. I don't know why, but they thought I wasn't the most suitable member of the British team to do that.
I think they probably made the right call on that one, I think.
Oh, come on, what are you saying? Yeah, Her Madge would have loved a bit of my caustic humour and local boy wit.
I disagree. How did that Champs go then? Were you was your kind of place in the team then set by that point, or were you still kind of bit in, bit out? No,
so I don't know if I'm arrogant enough about it. I could say that it was probably set at that point. Like I was the simple pick, basically. Like I was too big to be simple, but I was the one who was going to shout a lot and throw myself around the shiaijo, basically. And God, you know what? For the life of me, I can't remember the countries that we had in our group stage and the teams. I think one of them was Portugal. I don't remember which team the other one was. But I do remember that I won both of my matches in the group stage, and we went out on top of our group, I believe. And then we faced America in the next match.
So who was it you had at that point for Glasgow? Was it Honda Sotara was coaching the
He was, yeah. Honda Sensei was our coach from 2002. So Jeff switched from coach to manager, and Honda Sensei was coach from 2002 until 2006, I believe.
So that would have been after Taiwan or before?
I think Taiwan was the last time he was with us. Yeah.
Okay. So how was he for your kendo? I mean, did you get lots of good advice?
Yeah, like Honda Sensei was one of the most influential people on my kendo, full stop. Like, I think he at least saw like potential and effort, and rewarded it with commitment, basically. And I'm pretty sure that he's one of those people that without which my kendo would have not continued to grow, basically. Like, Jeff Hum was the person who gave it that first chance, and then Honda Sensei was the person who pushed me forwards to get the most out of it at that point.
So he was with you then from, you said, until just after Taiwan. I think that's the first time we met was very, very briefly in Taiwan in 2000. Was
it?
Very briefly. I
don't remember that.
You wouldn't do. I don't think. I was talking to a guy from Kendo Nippon who we'd had, through Kendo World, we'd had some dealings with, and he was asking me about teams in Europe. And I said, oh, yeah, the Great Britain are looking good. At that point, you just happened to be walking past me with the British team, and you went, oh, thanks very much. And then you just carried on your merry way.
Really?
So that was our introduction.
So what's funny about that then is that I got interviewed by Kendo Nippon at the World Championships.
Oh, okay.
And they gave me I nearly swore there, a whole page in the magazine.
Oh, right, nice.
I might even still have it somewhere. It's going to be down here somewhere in the collection.
I think the guy was Ando-san, I think, from Kendo Nippon.
So it wasn't Ando-san, because I've met Ando-san in Japan.
Kato-san, I think. Maybe.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I've met Ando-san in Japan, and it wasn't him. But yeah, I was interviewed and I had a whole page. And what's funny about that is recently I took my son, who is now in middle school. Obviously he's part of the Kendo club at his school. And so we drove them to the middle of Chiba to go and do a practice shiai with another school. And that other school has like a rack of Kendo Nippon. And I'm like, I'm in one of those. I like pulled it off and like showed this kid from my son's school. He's like, like this, he can't believe it. And then one of his mates is like, show me. And there's like 20 people behind him. I'm like, there's too many people. Sorry, love. And just put it straight back in. And so he didn't get to see it.
So going back to 2003, that was your first World Champs, and then your last one was 2015. That's actually the same as Christian Philippi, who we spoke to about a month or so ago for a KED Talk. You had the same World Champs career.
Nice and cyclical, I think, because for me, it started in the UK, and at the time I was in the UK, and then it ended in Tokyo, and at the time still do live in Tokyo. So for me, it was like starting and ending where I lived. Like I liked the kind of finality to that. But like I'd always decided, like once I knew, I'd moved to Japan in 2007, and I think after 2012, or maybe even after 2009 in Brazil, we knew that it was going to be in Tokyo in 2015. And I'm like, I'll be 35 at that point, probably past my peak anyway at that age. And so, like, if I'm still on the team, like, that's the one where I want to kind of hang my coat up and call it a day.
Okay, so you were then in you were living in the UK for 2003 and 2006.
And Taiwan,
Glasgow and Taiwan. You were still living in the UK.
Yeah.
Actually, I suppose we should mention that Taiwan was the first of your Fighting Spirit awards.
No, Glasgow was.
Oh, really?
Actually,
okay.
Yeah.
Which so, for team or individual? Or?
For team, yeah.
And then you got another one, Taiwan. I think, what round was it that the UK faced Korea, wasn't it?
It was the quarterfinals. We got to the quarterfinals in that one.
And I believe that you were Taisho in that match.
Yeah.
You were the only one that, well, you didn't lose.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I got a fighting spirit for not losing. I mean, yeah, I don't remember the match. I haven't even seen it on video in years either. But the only thing I remember is I got really close to the guy's kote once, and that was it. But I also didn't lose, which means that he didn't pound me into the floor like they did to most of their other opponents, which was nice.
Yeah, that was my first time, not as a competitor, obviously, but as at a World Champs, as filming that one for. I think for that one, I was supposed to be filming the semi-final between Taiwan and
Germany.
Korea.
Was it? Oh, Taiwan and Korea. That's right.
Semi-final, but Japan and the US was going on the other courts,
and everyone was just like, "Oh my god, what's happening over there?"
Yeah, it was. That was a good one. All right, so yeah, I think you said you fought the Korean Taisho in that one. I think Christian told us that when he was in the semi-final of Glasgow, he was drawn against Aga in the team match. And so how like you're going, obviously the Korean team are like all, I suppose, well-known guys in that. How was it kind of intimidating going up against particularly their Taisho, or did you know much about it?
No. I mean, that the Koreans are always going to be like a millimeter under the Japanese, if there is any difference at all when it comes to strength, right? So you don't go in there underestimating them. The flip side of it is that there are no really famous Korean kendo people in the West. Like we don't know who they are. They don't have the same penetration. They don't have the same fame. They don't have the same reach as the Japanese for multiple reasons. So for me, it was like, okay, I know that the Koreans are going to be hard as nails. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what his name is, but I know that I'm in for the fight of my life. And for me, again, this isn't just a World Championships thing. Like in Japan, when I get to fight against these people, I have the same reaction. It's one of those things where you either step up to it or you get pounded in 3 seconds. And I don't like the idea of getting pounded in 3 seconds. So it was like, well, let's step up to this and see what I can do. 5 minutes later, it was P, Hikiwaken, and there we go. And I'm like, well, I'll take that, but would have been nice to score that kote, I thought. And then like Honda Sensei was like, I think you're going to get fighting spirit for that. And I'm like, really? It was a draw. Like, why would I get fighting spirit for that? And then it came about at the end. So I mean, it was nice. Like everyone likes to get something out of these things when they go, but I wasn't expecting it.
So that World Champs then in Taiwan, that was the only team competition you were in there, or were you doing both again?
No, I was in both, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. So that was December 2006. I remember.
Yes.
Into that World Champs. So. You moved to Japan the following summer, wasn't it, or the following?
Yeah,
spring?
July 2007.
Okay, so how was that? How did you how long did it take you to get settled into a kendo environment over here?
So I was kind of lucky because I don't know if it was the summer before Taiwan or if it was after Taiwan, but Ozawa Hiroshi sensei, who wrote like one of the seminal beginners books that got translated into English that everybody kind of like leaned on at the time in the UK.
First kendo book I got, actually. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So he wrote this book, and he was in the UK. He's had a connection with the UK for years and years. And so he was in the UK, in London at the time, with his teacher Yamanaka Sensei. And I remember practicing with both of them in Wakaba. And I told Ozawa Sensei, like I could speak Japanese at that point. So I told Ozawa Sensei that I was going to be moving to Japan. And he was like, "You're coming to my dojo." I'm like, "I don't even know where your dojo is, but okay, let's give it a go." And it happened to be like relatively, like not really easy to get to, but I could get there and then get home within an hour. And so like my first kind of like kendo club that I gravitated to was Kobukan in Tokyo, which still is run by Ozawa Sensei.
It was started by his father, or was it his grandfather?
No, it was started by his grandfather. I think. Yeah, Kobukan's got decades of history. So Ozawa Takashi Sensei, I believe, who is Ozawa Sensei's father, was the youngest Hanshi Kyudan in Japan. Oh. So and then he has that one.
So his grandfather is it Ozawa
Iaido Sensei?
Who was also Kyudan as well,
I believe so, yeah.
Wow. And of course, obviously, Ozawa Sensei's now got Hachidan.
Yeah.
So there's also I've been there just a couple of times to Kobukan, and there's quite a lot of foreigners as well at that dojo. At that time, there was Stuart and Tyler and Arpad, and a few different ones. It was a cool place. So I remember not too long after you came, you organised what became known as Gibbo's Gaijin Kendo Bash in Kobukan, and that was pretty busy that day. And
I like to think of that as the precursor to the Kendo World, like summer keikokai.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that this year, and because of COVID and whatnot, and last year. But that was that ended in carnage. That one.
Yeah. So there was a Dutch guy, and I'll keep his name to the annals of history. But
I know exactly who you mean.
You know who I'm talking about, right? He denied point blank that he was found with his head in a urinal.
No, I found him.
It was you,
it was
right?
Me. Found him.
So I was always teasing him about it, and he was denying it so hard. Every single time he would just deny it and say, no, it's not me. It's not me. That was definitely not me. I would never do something like that. Never do something like that.
It wasn't really in it. It was just kind of resting
against it.
Oh. Yeah.
A while ago, I was in touch with him, and oh God, I really want to find this message. He admitted that it was him in a Facebook message to me. And like, that felt like one of the biggest victories that I've ever had. Like this guy finally admitting it was his head in the toilet. It's great.
So that was a really good event. There must have been, because Kobukan's not a very big dojo, really, is it? The floor area.
It's a shoebox. It's really small.
But there must have been 40 people there.
I've got it. So this was a message in 2020, just before COVID hit. So I actually did an interview maybe 18 months ago, more than 18 months ago now, almost 2 years ago, I guess, for Kendo Jidai International. And somebody came and like we did something by tape in Abusa in the middle of Tokyo. And so this guy heard the interview because he knows the person who was doing it. And so I was going with so-and-so by car to this competition, and he let me listen to your interview. First of all, about the beginning, yes, it was me in the urinal sleeping. So I'm like, that's victory for me, because finally he's admitted what we all knew. I was so pleased when I got that. It's like the best validation ever.
Yeah, the Kendo World Summer Keiko Kais are a much more refined affair.
Very dignified. Like that time down Golden Guy with me, you and Tyler. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Tyler's dead now, God bless his soul. But
he's not really, folks. He's still around. So that was, you came to Japan then in 2007.
Yeah.
And you were fourth dan, right, when you came to...
I
just got it, hadn't you?
Yeah. So I failed my fourth dan in the UK. And it was one of those things. So I look back on it now, and for me, it was one of those things, you could have passed or failed me, because I did my fourth dan exam with one person who was younger than me. And at the time, I would have been 26. One person who was younger than me by a couple of years, and one person who was older than me by about 30 years.
Oh, right.
And so like this guy was never going to be able to match me in terms of like power and speed and distance. So I would just like come here, take a hard center, step in and boff, and just basically do what I wanted for 60 seconds. And they failed me for it, basically. And so I was, again, I've calmed down a lot. Mike, I think you can even probably attest to this. I've calmed down a lot, even since I came to Japan.
A little bit, yeah.
Just a touch. And so at the time I was like, I can't believe this. It's ridiculous. Oh, sorry. There's two in like 3 seconds.
No,
can you beep that out when it comes to the recorded version? Sorry. Did Christian swear like that when you had him on?
Of course he didn't.
He's much more mature than I am. So I was livid, like more than anything else. Like again, in my arrogance, it was like, I can't believe it. Like, I just can't believe it. And so that was in like a November or a December, and I applied to the Belgian refereeing seminar grading, which was in February of the following year. And I actually remember at the time, the chairman of the BKA was like, you should probably wait and, take a little time and work on the things that we told you. And I just remember saying, I don't want to wait. I'm going to go to Belgium. And just like that. And I could see in his face that he was really pissed off with that reaction. But I'm like, at the time, I was like, I just don't care. I was, again, arrogant and young. And I was just like, I disagree with you guys. I think I passed, so I'm going to go and pass somewhere else. And for better or for worse, I passed in Belgium. I'm not sure how I feel about it, kind of like looking back, because I could understand one or two of the reasons why you might want to fail someone for doing what I did. But on the flip side, if I went like literally 3 months later and passed with flying colors at another place, you can also understand why I might have been annoyed with it. So I don't know. I just kind of like to be a bit more chill about things these days. So I passed my fourth dan at the second attempt in Belgium.
So that was, you said February 2007. Then and then you came here, July 2000.
Yeah. Like one thing that was on my mind was I didn't want to come to Japan as a third dan. I don't know why. I have no idea what was driving that, but I just wanted to make sure that I was fourth dan by the time that I came.
So how did you find it then? The training here. I mean, I think I've said on these other KED talks before, basically pretty much all of my experiences here in Japan. That's where I started.
Yeah.
So how did you find the
So
the atmosphere or the situation?
Well, there's a couple of big differences that I see in Japan, and I don't want to paint this with a completely overarching brush and make broad sweeping generalizations about the whole of Japan. So I want to caveat that not all of Japan is like this, but kendo wise, obviously the level is completely different here. So anybody with big fish in small pond syndrome is going to get a gigantic wake-up call when they come here. Now, to my advantage, I had come to Japan and practiced here a couple of times before I moved, so I knew the state of what I was getting myself into. So I had no delusions about where my place on the ladder was. So it was kind of a breath of fresh air to a greater extent, because in the UK, everyone knew who I was. Everyone had these expectations. Everyone was always watching what I was doing. In Japan, I could just blend into the background and be nobody. And that was great. So I had a little bit more freedom to kind of be what I wanted to be and do what I wanted to do from that extent. Whereas like in the UK, like especially towards the end, it was like, well, there's Gibbo. Let's go and watch what he's going to do. And if it's not what we expect, let's go and tell him that that wasn't what we expected. So, yeah, it was almost actually liberating to that extent.
Great. So how did you manage to? So did you take part in the EKC in 2007? Did you go back?
Yeah.
So how did that work then? Like you being here and.
Yeah, so the EKC in 2007 was actually before I came to Japan.
Oh, okay.
It was in April.
So for 2008, were you in that one?
Yeah, I was. I like basically between 2001 and 2015, I was in every EKC or WKC.
So how did that work then? Like obviously, I know a lot of countries you have to be resident in the country where you are in all.
I spent thousands of pounds of my own money on flights is how it worked.
So you would go back every time for squad training?
No. So, I mean, at the time they had a rule where you had to be resident in the UK. And again, the arrogance and the folly of youth. For me, I had been British national champion a few times. We had the Premier's Cup in Japan, which had been basically, it was a giant cup that had been donated by Hashimoto Ryutaro, who is an ex-prime minister of Japan and had been working in the UK. And he donated this cup to the UK to support British Kendo on the condition that that cup was used for a competition for British passport holders only, to encourage Brits to do more Kendo. And so the Premier's Cup I won 5 times. 4 of that was in a row. So 7, 6, 5, 4, I think, was me, basically. And I came second in 2003, and the first time I won it was 2002. So far be it from me to toot my own trumpet too much, but I was relatively dominant in British Kendo at that point in time. And so they basically changed the rules for me and said, okay, we'll make an exception. You are allowed to come, but you have to tell us what you're doing for practice. And if you can take videos and send that over, then we want you to do that as well. And so once or twice a year, I'd send them a video of my practice. I'd document what I was doing and, you know, what things I was thinking of and practicing and focusing on and that sort of stuff, and send it back to them.
You were training at, wasn't it, was it Matsumoto Sensei at the time was in charge of the UK team?
I believe so. From 2008 until 2010, maybe?
Maybe I'm misremembering this, but didn't he sort you out with training at Tokai university?
Yes, he did. He did. So he gave me an introduction to Yoshimura Sensei, who was the Kendo Bucho, basically. Was he? I don't know if that's the right term. Maybe he was the head teacher of the Kendo club at Tokaidai and Hachidan at the time. At the time, he still is Hachidan. And basically, I practiced with Tokaidai once every 3 to 4 months from, I guess, the end of 2007 until I retired in 2015.
So then Yoshimura Sensei would kind of send reports about you, or
no, he would kick my ass. That's all he did. Like, he would just kick my ass, and then I would just report back, "Hey, I practiced with Yoshimura Sensei today, and he kicked my ass." Oh, okay. Basically. But it was good because, I mean, Tokaidai is a famous university in Kendo, right? Like, back in the day, they had some of the most famous people practicing there. Iwasa Hidenori Sensei is from Tokaidai. Eiga Sensei, both of them are from Tokaidai. Like, one of my friends, like his close friend is like Koseki Taro from Tokaidai. So, like, they have a pedigree. So it's good to practice with those kids who, honestly, also just mostly beat me up.
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times because Hirakawa Sensei was also one of the Kendo senseis there as well.
Yeah, he's like guest sensei.
Yeah, I think he worked there for a while, I think.
Is that right?
Not his main. His main was Meiji, but then he was also there. So, yeah, I went there a few times and, got my ass handed to me in spectacular fashion. So, yeah, it was good though. But so, what was there no kind of problems, or, you being here and then the rest of the team being back in the UK? Did it, or was everyone just chill with it? Everyone, it's just
the problems are all mine. Let's just say the kendo team in the UK was in a very transient state for a period of time. I think it kind of settled down around 2010, perhaps, and then finally I felt like things were okay again in maybe 2013. But there was definitely a period of time between 2007 to 2010 where I was a dick because, again, aforementioned arrogance, folly of youth, not being able to see past my own nose was a bit of a challenge. And also, like, the team was going through flux. Like, there was a lot of change going on. There was a lot of new members coming in.
So some of the older guys and girls like retiring, and then younger blood coming in.
Yeah, pretty much. And like, there was one thing for me, and at the time, this was something that I felt. And looking back, I'm not totally convinced or sure if this is fair criticism or not. So, pre-caveat, apologies if I pissed anybody off at the time, especially if you don't feel it was worth it. But I kind of felt that some of the team were just happy to be there. And so for me, I was like, I'm practicing 6 times a week. Like, I've put my career on hold. I'm doing like whatever job I can so that I can support myself to do kendo. I am paying thousands of pounds to come around the world and go into a competition with you guys. And I'm not seeing the same level of commitment as not just myself, but as the previous team members that they were replacing. And so I'm not saying not everybody was like that, obviously, but there was one or two. And I was just like, it was difficult for me because I was like, well, I'm coming all the way around the world to do this with these guys. And are they really committed to this? And again, that's probably a lot of youthful arrogance speaking at the time, perhaps. And I look back on it and I think, I'm not totally sure if I was really right or wrong at that point anymore. But you know, at the end of the day, there's still things that were making me think in that way. We got to a better place afterwards, I think, including one or two of the people who I thought were just kind of like I said, just happy to be there, like really demonstrably putting the effort in and like changing what they were doing and making themselves stronger. But yeah, at the time, like it was difficult to kind of reconcile what the team had been with what it looked like it was going to be.
Okay. So then your final one then was 2015. So you said when earlier on in our talk, you said that when you realized, what was it, 2009, that the 15, was it around?
I think it was there.
Wait, so you had in your mind that 15 is going to be in Tokyo.
I mean, I always knew it was going to be in Asia, and I thought it was going to be in Tokyo. And there was a time when it was kind of like fixed. It might have been a bit later, like 2011, perhaps. Like I think they fix what the next one's going to be before the upcoming one is done. And so I'd heard, okay, it's going to be in Tokyo. And I was like living in the greater metropolitan area at that point. I was just thinking, well, that's the one. Like I'm going to be old by that point, and I don't particularly want to be going until I'm like 38 or some age like that. And I want to do other stuff with my kendo afterwards as well. So that's going to be my cutoff point. Like regardless of what happens, that's my Waterloo. Like I'm done at that point.
So you felt then that after all that tournament was all said and done, after Tokyo's finished, you think that was the right decision? Do you wish you'd have gone on for another 3 years?
No, it was definitely the right decision.
Definitely the right time.
Definitely.
How did that one go, 2015?
It was a mixed bag. I was too nervous and too like conscious of being watched in the individual competition. The individuals in the World Championships is the only competition that I've been in where I've consistently done very badly. To the point where I think I've only gotten out of the group stage in the World Championships once.
Really? Oh, so that was your first one then? Oh, no, sorry, you're talking about
World Championships. World Championships. Okay. Yeah. I've never done very well in the World Championships in the individuals. It's just one of those things. And then like the day afterwards, like I go out and like beat someone on the American team in the team's competition. So it's like, hey, here we go. It's just one of those things. Like you talk about Waterloo, that's my Waterloo, the World Championships individuals. I've never been able to do good in it. So the last one was the same. Didn't do very well, didn't get out of the group, really annoyed with myself. And then the next stage won both of my matches 2-0. So it's like,
that was against America and New Zealand as well.
No, I don't think it was America. New Zealand faced America after they drew on matches and then beat us on Ippon, I think, or total Ippon. Actually,
yeah, it was even on points, wasn't it?
It was even on points between us and New Zealand, but they had beaten one of the Eastern European countries, not Croatia, or maybe it was Croatia.
I can't remember.
I don't remember, but it was a country that that Britain shouldn't have had as much difficulty beating as they did. And then the Kiwis beat them by a bigger margin than we did. And so they had more total Ippon than we did. And so they went up rather than us. That was a tough one for me because I think on a different day it would have been us. I was really annoyed on that day.
For the team, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we should have done better.
I remember speaking to you. I saw you sitting in the stands after because I was there with the Kendo World team to make video. And I remember seeing you after the individuals and asked how it went. And quite soon I realised you weren't happy. So I thought, all right, I'll just I'll see you later.
Not happy is gigantic understatement.
I'll leave you alone. But sorry, what we forgot to talk about before that was so the year before then, in your 10th attempt, I
forgot to talk about that bit.
Yeah, that's quite a big one. The European Championships that you were.
Yeah.
So you already knew at that point that would be your final European champs as well.
Yeah. If I came last in that competition, it was still going to be my last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was it Mandia you fought in the final of that?
No. I fought Fabrizio a couple of times at the European Championships. But in the final, it was Miyamoto from Belgium that I fought.
Okay, so that was your last one, and you finally got there. How far? What's the best position that you had ever achieved up until that point?
I had been in the quarterfinals 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah. Up to then.
All right. So now you've been in Japan for, what is it now? 15 years? 14 years?
14 years next month.
14 years next month. Okay.
Yeah.
So since you've been here, you got your 5th dan and your 6th dan in Tokyo. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Tokyo, you got them?
Yep.
So one question that we've had from one of our patrons is that patrons on Patreon that you've been involved with is the Kendo Promotion Association.
Yeah.
So can you tell us first of all, what is it, the Kendo Obviously, it sounds self-explanatory by the title.
They're an association that promotes Kendo.
All right, fair enough. That's that question answered. So,
good lad.
So what exactly are their activities then?
So I don't think it's just promotion of Kendo. I think it's more specifically with children. And so I think that the aim is just to their aim is to promote Kendo to the next generation of Kendo practitioners in Japan.
What kind of activities does this all
I believe it's mostly like event-based stuff. So like they have the big stuff that I was involved with, like the competition in Saitama. They have like smaller stuff where they get some very, very prominent names from the competition circuit to like teach middle school kids. I think they've done some online stuff since the pandemic started as well.
So I think the ones you've been in have had, was it Hashimoto Keisuke? Is it
Keiji? Hashimoto Keiji
from Saitama, who's in the All Japans pretty much every year, isn't he?
So Hashimoto Keiji on the men's side, Hashimoto Keiji, Yoneya Yuichi as well, Hojo Tadomi, the younger one, was there.
Kanagawa, is it?
From Kanagawa.
Yeah.
Kiwada Daiki has been there as well. Murase Ryo from he was like a team member of the All Japan team as a student. On the women's side, Yamamoto Mariko was there as well. And then yours truly, just like sticking his big white face into this otherwise civilized proceedings.
But there's also some guy from Japanese TV. Is it some older actor that's often pops up on?
Oh no, they have like the odd famous person who actually does kendo. So Watanabe Masayuki he's a comedian. I've actually practiced with him a lot at Shinjuku. So he would go to Shinjuku like 2-3 times a year, and for reasons unknown would always ask me for practice. And I'm like, you're famous. I'm going to kick your ass. And so I just beat him up as much as I could, basically.
Maybe that's why you ended up getting involved in this promotion association.
Oh no, that came afterwards. Okay. But like, I'll tell you something about Watanabe-san. Like, he really cares about kendo, and we need more people like that, right? Like, he wants Japan to embrace kendo again, and he is happy to use his place within the entertainment industry to just let people know that kendo exists and that you can do kendo. So I have a lot of time for Watanabe-san, a lot of time for him. I really respect what he does.
Yeah, he often pops up on TV wearing his gear and talking about kendo on the innumerable variety shows. And
he's got a YouTube channel now as well. Yeah.
And maybe we'll have to put that in the description below.
Kendo Mashigura, I think it's called. Okay. Yeah.
So how has it been then for these little elementary school kids or junior high school kids seeing you there? Has it changed their image?
It's the kendo equivalent of seeing the jolly green giant walk into your home. Basically,
that's an incredible British reference.
Thank you.
For those of you that don't know,
purveyors of sweet corn everywhere, wringing their hands at the advertising opportunities for Japan. I mean, like I would turn up. I'd do the old "Hello, how is everybody" in English, and then they'd go, "Oh, give me that face," and then I go, "Okay, let's speak in Japanese," then, and give them Japanese, and everyone goes, "Oh, you can speak Japanese." You know, like. I'm there for the entertainment. I don't mind that. Like on the flip side, like some people might look at it as the old dancing bear, but for me, like I love doing kendo with kids. Right? I want to see kids doing their best at kendo. I want to see kids getting stuff out of kendo, because ultimately, without more children doing kendo dies. So we need that, and I want to support that as much as I can. So I'm really happy to be involved in stuff like that, and I enjoy doing it.
Is there any more plans for any of those to go on over the
I think they'll probably do something once all of this nonsense that is going around in the world sorts itself out. I think I've heard them talking about that. So maybe in the future, another few years' time.
Yeah, the nonsense that Stuart is referring to is obviously COVID-19 or Corona. So how is that? Are you managing to still train a little bit?
Yeah, sort of. Like when Japan is not in a state of emergency, I'm still practicing a few times a week. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just managing the one, but I'm managing once at the week at the minute. But even when Japan is in a state of emergency, that doesn't really.
It doesn't always stop us from doing kendo, does it?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, very strange, very weird. All right, well that's we've been talking for about an hour now, so. I think we've covered a lot of ground on your opinions and your history on world champs and the European champs and then the Kendo Promotion Association. So thanks very much for joining us this evening. And I've managed to get through that in the time.
I'm done as well. I'm completely done with my giant chuhai.
So I think it's a good time to call an end to this and get a refill. So
count me in.
Thanks very much to our patrons for listening in, and thanks for your support of Kendo World. And I hope you enjoy this video when you're watching it, or if you've been listening into it live. Once again, thanks to Stuart Gibson from the UK, now resident in Tokyo, for spending his Friday evening with us. So Gibbo, once again, thank you very much.
My pleasure.